They say America's favorite food is Italian. Well, I say give the people what they want. Today I've got some crazy secrets for making the Italian dishes you love at home. I think the Italians would all go, ah! But don't tell them. But I'll tell you this, you will adore my Butternut Squash Farrotto with prunes and fried sage. I'm a happy camper. And then, you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I can't make pizza dough on a weeknight. Well, guess what? You can. It takes 6 minutes. And I've got more tricks up my sleeve. Homemade ravioli, using wonton wrappers stuffed with 3 cheeses. What a perfect weeknight meal, don't you think? Here's another one. Fast weeknight lasagna. My secret? You can pull it off in no time if you use store-bought cooked polenta instead of noodles. And a sausagey red sauce and mozzarella. And doesn't that look amazing? Italian with a secret. Today on Sara's Weeknight Meals. Farrotto is risotto made with farro. What is farro? It's an ancient grain. And today I'm going to make this dish, which is, I think, more nutritious than risotto, obviously, because it's an ancient grain, with butternut squash and prunes and fried sage. So I'm going to start by frying the sage. And after you taste fried sage, you're going to start frying every single herb known to man. So in here, I have 1 inch of high heat oil, grapeseed oil, and we've heated it to roughly 365 degrees. And you only want to do a few at a time because they bubble up. You're going to see. Okay, fasten your seatbelt. Here goes. Now, it doesn't take any time at all, about 10 or 15 seconds, and then you take them right out. Once you see them float and start to turn a little bit color, get them on a sheet pan lined with paper towels to drain off the excess oil, and then sprinkle them with a little salt. And you want to salt them while they're hot, and because it will stick to the oil on the sage leaves. I'm going to use the same pan for my farrotto, but before I do that, I'm going to brush my knife with oil. You will find out why in a minute. You can use this oil again. It will smell wonderfully or have a faint taste of sage because we just fried the sage in there. But I'm not going to, well, we don't need it today. I'm using the same pan to make the farrotto because why dirty 2 pans, you know? Let me get my butter in there. 2 tablespoons of butter. And the pan's very hot from the oil, so I'm going to also add the onions at the same time. And then just cook them gently till they get lightly golden or just translucent. It's important to season as you go. Don't wait till the end, or it'll taste like a dish with a salt garnish. You just want it to have a lot of depth of flavor. While the onions soften, I'm going to cut up my prunes. Now back to why I oiled my knife. The prunes are going to add so much to this dish. I like them so much because it doesn't stick to your knife when you're cutting up dried fruit. Use an oiled knife. They add moisture, they add their own flavor. They're not just sweet. In a dish like this, they're perfect with the butternut squash and the sage. So we need about a half a cup. I'm going to add 2 cups of pearled farro. Very healthy, nutty, chewy. It's not as starchy as the rice you use for a regular risotto. Just as you do with a regular risotto, we're going to now put the grain in, and we're going to stir it around to make sure they get sort of coated with that butter. Now, it's important to get pearled or semi-pearled farro because if you get the whole grain farro, you'll have to soak it overnight. It takes forever to cook. And I'm going to add both my prunes and a cup of dry white wine. Use an Italian one if you have one. Even a Pinot Grigio would be nice. The acid will balance sort of the starchiness of the farro and also the sweetness of the prunes. It's going to make a big noise. Traditionally, when you make a regular risotto, you add the liquid in small increments, like half cups. I worked with Andrew Carmelini, a great chef from New York City, and he's Italian, so I got it from Italian, and he said, heck, I don't do it that way. I add the broth in 2 stages. Now the broth, I haven't talked about that yet, we're using chicken broth today. You could keep this vegetarian and use vegetable broth. I've got 5 cups that I've been simmering over there. You want your broth to be hot. Okay, that looks almost completely absorbed, so I'm going to go get my broth. So now we're doing the Andrew Carmelini Lazy Woman's version. I'm just going to let this gently cook down. I'm going to stir it once or twice, but I'm not going to fuss. So while that's cooking, so 15 minutes, we add the second half of the broth, and then another 15 minutes, but while it's cooking, let me talk about farro. So this has been around since 44 BC. They found it in some of the Egyptian tombs. I mean, it's been around forever. It's been served to troops throughout the centuries. It's just so nutritious. And if you've never had it, you can really find it in supermarkets now. It's just a great grain to add to the plate. All right, it's been 15 minutes. It's absorbed most of the liquid. I'm gonna go get the second half. All right, here we go. All right, so while this cooks for another 15 minutes, I'm gonna go deal with my butternut squash. It's a small one. What I do is I cut it, and this is cooled now, I cut the butternut squash in half, and I roast it at 350 for 45 minutes to 1 hour, or until you can stick a knife in easily. And it's a really good way to cook butternut squash because it concentrates the flavor. One of my tricks is I don't take out the seeds before I roast it because it's so much easier to take out the seeds after you roasted it. So now I'm gonna take this out first. Now, I debated when I worked on this recipe, should I puree the butternut squash? And then I thought, well, why? I'm just putting it in here. You know, why puree it when you're just gonna throw it in the pot and stir it around and stir it around? I can't be bothered. Okay, that looks good now. It's creamy. It looks like the grains are nicely cooked. There still will be a nice crunch, which I like. Time to finish the dish. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more water. I like my risotto, whatever kind it is, and this is farrotto, to be soupy. I think the Italians would all go, ah, but don't tell them. I just like it to be sort of creamy and soupy. So there's that. Of course, I love pepper in a dish like this, so plenty of freshly ground black pepper. And then some freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano, about 1 ounce. Please use the real McCoy. And how you know it's the real McCoy is because when you buy it in a chunk, you'll see somewhere on the edge of it, the outside of it will be, you'll see parts of the word of Parmigiano Reggiano. Oh boy, this is the perfect dish for a cold night, but really almost any night. Oh, yum, yum. This serves 4 to 6 people. Of course, I see it as a main dish, but you could certainly serve it as a course, but it's so hearty that why not have it as the main dish? So now, a little more cheese. The last thing that's just so wonderful, a little bit of fried sage. And hey, if you want to be wild and crazy, you can put even more on than I just did. Well, what the heck, I'm going to be wild and crazy. Okay, so there you have it. My version of risotto made with ancient wheat. And you know, the funny thing is, if it's so darn ancient, how come it took me so long to find it? But now that I found it, I'm a happy camper. This is the best. My farrotto with butternut squash, prunes, and fried sage. All right, I'm cheating on you again. And this time it's an ingredient. I spent hours and hours and hours making this homemade pasta dough. Not. These are wonton wrappers. You find them either in the freezer section of the supermarket or maybe in the fresh section where you might find the tofu. And I'm going to use them as ravioli wrappers and stuff them with 3 cheeses and some peas. But I'm going to start by making my tomato sauce because, you know, you can buy tomato sauce, and yeah, that speeds up the whole process a little bit, but why not just make your own with good old Italian plum tomatoes? I've had some onions cooking here, 1/2 cup chopped onion, and some garlic, and we're just gonna let this get aromatic for a second. Then I'm gonna add some hot pepper flakes, because I like that little bit of chili in there, and the Italians use the hot pepper flakes all the time. My little trick, you know, in the old days, I used to open up a can of tomatoes, put it all over the cutting board, and then chase the liquid all over the place. So now what I like to do is take off the lid and then just take scissors and just give them a chop, chop, chop. Stir this. Oh my goodness, I'm cooking with 2 hands. So, there we go. Yeah. I'm gonna bring it up to a boil and then turn it down to a simmer and let it go until it's concentrated. I'm gonna add a hefty pinch of salt too. Oh, my pepper flakes, how could I forget them? And a hefty pinch of salt. Okay, on to the filling. When you're making your stuffed ravioli, you need about a level tablespoon per ravioli. I'm figuring, okay, I'm gonna make this for about 6 people, and so each one is gonna get roughly 4 to 6 ravioli. So I'm gonna make 2 cups total filling, which means I can make 32 ravioli. I've got a 1/2 cup of peas in here. These are frozen defrosted. I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup of ricotta, add a 1/2 cup of Parmigiano Reggiano. This adds the salty element to it. And we're just using the microplane, which is my favorite for grating cheese. I just find it the fastest. All right, so there's our Parmesan. We're gonna add a little nutmeg, because when you're making a cream sauce or when you're working with cheese, nutmeg is just a nice thing to add. On to our mozzarella. I am using the dreaded 4-sided grater because we need the coarse side. I'm gonna spray it a little bit so that the cheese doesn't stick. Yeah, that looks about right. Pinch of salt and some black pepper. Freshly grated, always freshly grated. Do not buy the pre-ground stuff, it's dead. Oh, this smells great. I can smell the nutmeg. Now, when you're working with the ravioli, it's fresh and it dries out very quickly. So you want to keep it covered while you're working with it and just take 1 piece at a time. So I've got a nice little towel. You could use a towel, you could use some plastic wrap and just cover it up. Got a little bowl of water. We need some glue. And you do about 3 at a time. So now we're gonna get them wet on the edges. Now, when you put the top one on, you press around, right around the filling, because you don't want air in there. You want to make sure you get all the air out. And you notice as I've shaped them, I put them on flour. It could be cornstarch also, because they'll stick, and we don't want them sticking. So I'm just gonna add salt to my water, which you do at the last minute. Plenty of salt. This is particularly true with starch. Potato, rice, pasta, that salt's got to go in when they go in. So in it goes. This is kosher salt. Now I'm going to put them in and turn it down to a bare simmer, because if it boils wildly, they might all fall apart. And even so, sometimes they do. And don't panic. Just carry on. These take about 3 to 5 minutes. Usually fresh pasta only takes about 1 or 2. Remember, this is a double layer. Okay, and I'm gonna give this a little stir because we don't want them all sticking to each other. Now I'm gonna get some basil for the topping. Basil and tomato sauce, wow. Okay, I'm gonna check one. I can see they're getting sort of clear around the edges. I'll take a little tiny taste off the corner. Those are just about there. I'm gonna start setting up. Okay, so sauce on the bottom. You can put sauce on the top too. And I just tasted this and re-seasoned it. It's very important to taste it. So let's put this on the bottom. And then we're just gonna put these guys on top. Ah, so pretty, aren't they? See, they're substantial. There we go, moving on. Okay, tiny bit more tomato sauce on top. We need to have a little more Parmigiano Reggiano right over it. And finally, a little bit of basil. What a perfect weeknight meal, don't you think? My wonton ravioli stuffed with 3 cheeses and peas. What's more Italian than pizza? We all love it. Here's a secret. Homemade pizza dough is super easy. Here's how. You might be thinking, oh my goodness, I can't make pizza dough on a weeknight. Well, guess what? You can. Takes 6 minutes. Okay, so we're gonna start with the dough, which is all-purpose flour. And we need about 1 3/4 cup. And what's gonna really help us here is the rapid rise or instant yeast, because it works a lot faster than regular yeast. That's how come we get away with a 35-minute rise. With the rapid rise or instant yeast, you add it right to the dry ingredients. 1 package, 1 teaspoon each of salt and sugar. The sugar will help to sort of jump start the dough, and there's a teaspoon of salt. And then I've got some very hot water. To the water, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. First, I'm gonna just mix the dry ingredients. And then in goes the liquid. I want it almost to ball up. Ah, look at that. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna put it into a bowl that I've oiled very lightly with some more olive oil. And I'm just turning it around to coat the bottom side and then the top side with oil on it. If I just put this in here without oiling the bowl and oiling the dough and just let it rise, it would get a skin, and we don't want that. So, put plastic wrap on top. Put it in a warm place, and there you go. And I have some over here that's been rising for 35 minutes. And it doubles in bulk. And how you know it's ready, besides just looking at it visually, is that, let me just put a little flour in my finger, that when you put your finger in, if it holds the indent of the finger, if it looks like an innie belly button, then it's good to go. Lasagna is not the kind of dish you can just throw together on a weeknight. But here's the secret. You can pull it off in no time if you use store-bought cooked polenta instead of noodles. So I'm also starting with sausages. I'm not just using ground meat. And I've got 2 sweet sausages. You could use sweet, you could use hot Italian. You just need about 1/2 pound. And I threw these 2 sausages into the freezer for 30 minutes. Look at how nicely they're slicing. I'm also using the right tool for the job, which is a serrated knife. Meanwhile, gotta get my pan heating here. We're gonna make a very quick tomato sauce. Olive oil, because this is a Mediterranean dish. The sausage has some fat too, so we don't need a ton. See how we're doing. It's really bubbling all around, so I know the pan's hot enough. I'm gonna get the rest in there. And I'm gonna wash my hands and come back and continue. While the sausage is cooking, and it will take about 8 minutes to get some nice color on it, I'm gonna actually get my polenta going too. Polenta is cornmeal. You could make your own polenta as your sort of lasagna noodle stand-in, but I thought, why not buy this product in the supermarket? It makes my life easier. Usually I just saute the polenta like this in a nonstick pan in oil, but I want to get a little color on it. So I'm gonna take a tip from those big companies that make the French fries you eat at many restaurants. They coat their French fries in some sort of cornstarch or flour before they deep fry it, which gives it extra crispness. Good. I'm going to stir my sausages here. By the way, you could also use turkey sausage. You could make this leaner that way. My onions are ready to go into the pan with the sausages. It's one medium onion here that we finely diced. I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt because I like to season as I go. Get my mozzarella out and slice that up. We need that to be ready too. You need 4 ounces for this recipe. I've got some beautiful, I can tell it's fresh mozzarella, because it's very soft. But any mozzarella that you like that works for you that you can find will be good. We're gonna slice it. So there's 2 cheeses that go in here. There's mozzarella and there's Parmesan. 4 ounces of mozzarella and 2 ounces of freshly grated Parmesan. Okay, now I'm gonna turn these whether they're ready to turn or not. Oh, it was worth the wait. I got a nice little crisp on it. Okay, I think I can add my garlic. And this is only gonna be in with the onions and sausage for about a minute. That's 2 cloves of garlic. So I sort of just saute it around until I can smell it, which of course always makes me happy too. And then when you've got a nice aroma of garlic, you add your tomatoes, our fire roasted tomatoes, chopped fire roasted tomatoes. That's 1 14.5-ounce can. And we're gonna just simmer this until it dries. We want all the flavors to meld. And you know, I think my polenta's done. I'm gonna take it out and get another batch in. Ooh, this is wonderfully crispy. Okay, 5 minutes aside, and then I think we're ready to assemble. Okay, so we're ready to assemble. First, a little spoonful of sauce, just to moisten the bottom so that the polenta doesn't stick. We did oil this square casserole dish anyway, but just a little sauce in the bottom. Then about half of the slices. Now, half of the remaining tomato sauce. Okay, half of our Parmesan. Half the mozzarella. The rest of the polenta. I'm doing pretty well. Of course, I'll get to the end and realize I forgot something completely. The rest of the sauce, I'm getting to the finish line. Let's face it, you can't go wrong with melted cheese. 375-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes or until it just melts. that look amazing? I can't wait to try it. These 3 meals can be made in minutes, and they're so budget-friendly, you must give them a try. I'm Sara Moulton. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon for more Weeknight Meals.